Prince Sultan Air Base, Saudi Arabia, March 29, 2026, 13:07 local time. The midday sun hammered down on the concrete apron of Prince Sultan Air Base like a white-hot forge. Heat shimmered off the tarmac in visible waves, turning the distant runway into a silver mirage. At the center of the main parking ramp sat E-3 Sentry AWACS aircraft, I-01, its massive rotating radar dome gleaming under the brutal Saudi sky. The four Pratt & Whitney TF-33 engines were already idling, a low rumble that mixed with the distant whine of Saudi F-15s taxiing in the distance. Captain Mark Reynolds stood at the foot of the boarding stairs, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his flight glove. He had flown this exact bird 3 days earlier during the frantic escort of AB-2 Spirit that had been painted by an Iranian Sayyad 4. Today the mission felt almost routine, 8-hour orbit over the Persian Gulf, feeding real-time data to the carrier strike group and every Allied fighter in the region. "Coffee's already boiling inside," joked Major Sarah Kane, his co-pilot, as she climbed the stairs behind him. 13 more minutes, and we're wheels up. After yesterday's submarine scare, I thought they'd cancel daylight launches. But here we are. Reynolds forced a smile. In truth, the crew had grown dangerously accustomed to the rhythm of alerts. The past week had been relentless. Shahid swarms, fast attack boats squeezing destroyers, a MiG-29 intercept, even an Iranian helicopter that had nearly collided with an American Seahawk. Yet each time the Iranians stopped just short of open war. The base had started to treat the threats like background noise. Inside the E-3, the air conditioning fought a losing battle against the desert heat. 17 crew members, 4 pilots, 13 weapons and surveillance officers, were already strapped in, running final checklists. The giant radar array was warmed up and ready to paint the entire Gulf in a single sweep. Ground crew reports all systems green, called a flight engineer. Saudi security says the perimeter is quiet. No one mentioned the small detail that the base's newest long-range early warning radar had been down for scheduled maintenance since 11 o'clock that morning. No one mentioned that the backup TPY-2 radar was operating at reduced power because of an overheating issue in the midday sun. Complacency had crept in like the desert dust, silent, invisible, and everywhere. 920 kilometers to the north, in a cool, dimly lit underground command bunker beneath Tehran, General Major Ali Jafari stood motionless before the wall-sized tactical display. Red icons marked every American and Saudi asset from the Gulf to the Red Sea. His eyes lingered on the bright green rectangle labeled E-3 Sentry, Prince Sultan. "They believe daylight protects them," he said quietly to the room. "They believe their Patriot batteries and their distance make them untouchable. Today we prove distance is an illusion." He gave a single nod. 2 Ahmad-1 ballistic missiles, each carrying a maneuverable reentry vehicle and a full suite of decoys, roared off mobile launchers hidden in the hills of Khuzestan province. Flight time to target, 7 minutes and 35 seconds. Prince Sultan Air Base, 1309. The first indication that something was wrong came not from radar, but from the sudden, piercing wail of the base-wide air raid siren. Air threat. Air threat. Ballistic missiles inbound from Iran. Multiple launches confirmed. The voice on the loudspeaker cracked with urgency. Red strobes flashed across the ramp. Reynolds spun toward the aircraft. "Start the takeoff roll now." Technicians sprinted clear as the E-3 began its lumbering acceleration down the runway. Inside the cockpit, Reynolds pushed the throttles forward, feeling the heavy jet fight against the desert air. 110 knots. 130. The nose will lifted for a fraction of a second, then settled again. The aircraft needed another 20 seconds to reach rotation speed. In the Combat Information Center beneath the base, Saudi Colonel Ahmed al-Shamri and American Lieutenant Colonel James Harper stared at the glowing tracks. 2 missiles, Harper said, voice tight. Speed Mach 5.6. Altitude dropping fast. Patriot batteries engaging. 8 Patriot pack. 3 interceptors streaked skyward in a fan of white smoke. 2 brilliant explosions lit the upper atmosphere as the first Ahmad was destroyed. But the second missile, its warhead already separated and performing violent corkscrew maneuvers, slipped through the defensive screen. Its onboard jammer flooded Saudi and American radars with false targets. Second warhead has penetrated. Harper shouted. Impact in 40 seconds. On the runway, the E-3 was now at 160 knots, no struggling to rise. Reynolds could see the heat haze dancing ahead of him. For one impossible moment, he believed they might make it. Then the sky above the ramp turned white. The warhead detonated 20 meters above the tarmac in a blinding flash. The pressure wave hit the E-3 like a giant hammer. The aircraft's left wing sheared off in a single clean break. The fuselage cartwheeled, disintegrating into a storm of aluminum, wiring, and burning fuel. The massive radar dome exploded into fragments that rained across half the base. A secondary fireball engulfed two nearby KC-135 tankers and a pair of Saudi F-15s parked in the adjacent revetment. Black smoke boiled upward in a column that could be seen from the highway 30 kilometers away. 1313. The explosion's roar reached the underground CIC a fraction of a second later. Monitors went dark. Alarm screamed. Harper's face was ashen. I-01 is gone, completely destroyed on the ground. Colonel Al-Shamri was already on the secure line to Riyadh. The American AWACS has been lost, he said in a flat voice. Direct hit on the ramp. We have multiple casualties. Aboard USS Gerald R. Ford, Persian Gulf, 1316. Captain Alex Rivera stood frozen in front of the large screen display, showing live satellite imagery. A thick pillar of smoke rose from the Saudi desert, like a black exclamation mark. Jesus Christ, he whispered. They hit an AWACS on the ground in broad daylight. Senior Lieutenant Emma Rodriguez, standing beside him, spoke without taking her eyes off the feed. One of only 4 operational E-3s in theater. That aircraft was the single most important node for air battle management. Without it, we're half blind. Rivera exhaled slowly. After everything, the submarine, the boats, the B-2 intercept, they still found a way to reach into Saudi Arabia in the middle of the day. How the hell did the Patriots miss the second bird? Rodriguez shook her head. Maintenance window on the long-range radar. Reduced power on the backup. Heat affecting the systems. They thought daylight made them safe. Tehran, Underground Command Center, 1320. General Major Jafari watched the smoke plume grow on the live drone feed. For the first time in days, his expression softened into something that might have been satisfaction. Confirmed destruction, he said. Confirmed, the operator replied. E-3 completely destroyed. Secondary fires spreading. American and Saudi casualties reported. Jafari turned to his staff. They believed the desert and the sun would protect their most valuable aircraft. Today we reminded them that no base is beyond our reach. Prince Sultan Air Base, 1335. Firefighting crews from both nations battled the inferno. The heat from the burning jet fuel was so intense that firefighters had to rotate every 90 seconds. Captain Reynolds, who had leaped from the cockpit hatch 15 seconds before impact and sprinted clear, sat on the edge of an ambulance, staring at the blackened crater where his aircraft had been. His flight suit was torn and singed. I thought we had another 20 seconds, he said quietly to no one in particular. 20 seconds, and we would have been airborne. Major Kane, who had been thrown clear by the blast wave, sat beside him with a bandaged arm. We got complacent, she said. Everyone did. The alerts became routine. The maintenance window became acceptable risk. We treated the Iranians like they were still playing by old rules. 9 bodies had already been recovered. 5 American, 4 Saudi. Another 12 were injured, some critically. The base hospital was overwhelmed. Pentagon, Washington, D.C., 7:45 local time, same day. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs stared at the same satellite image, now displayed on the secure video wall. Loss of an E-3 is not just a loss of one aircraft, he said. It is a loss of 25% of our airborne battle management capacity in the entire theater. We are now operating with a critical gap until the E-7 Wedgetails can be surged from Australia. A 4-star Air Force general spoke up. The Iranians used Ahmad-1 missiles with advanced penetration aids. They timed the strike during a known maintenance window on our long-range radar. This was not luck. This was deliberate exploitation of our own procedures. The room fell silent. For the first time in the week-long crisis, the United States had lost a strategic asset on Allied soil in broad daylight. Later that afternoon, as the sun began its slow descent over the burning wreckage, the strategic implications settled like dust on the desert floor. The remaining E-3s were ordered to maintain continuous airborne alert, but every pilot now flew with the knowledge that their home base could be targeted at any moment. Fighter squadrons were dispersed to secondary airfields. The carrier strike groups in the Gulf doubled their combat air patrols. Yet the damage went deeper than hardware. For the first time in decades, American commanders had to confront the uncomfortable truth. Even their most advanced airborne command posts were no longer safe on the ground anywhere within range of Iranian ballistic missiles. The Persian Gulf had become a theater where distance no longer guaranteed safety and daylight no longer guaranteed security. Captain Reynolds stood alone on the edge of the ramp long after the fires were out. The smell of burnt jet fuel and molten aluminum hung heavy in the cooling evening air. He looked north, toward the horizon where Iran lay beyond the haze, and spoke the only words that mattered. "We underestimated them," he said, "and now we're paying the price in steel and lives." The desert wind carried his words away across the empty tarmac, where, only hours earlier, the most important eye in the American sky had waited for a routine takeoff that would never come.